everybody. You are here with Buzz and Juice, and we have special guest Chuck Garfein joining the show today. Chuck works for NBC Sports, and he does the White Sox Talk podcast. I'm a huge fan of his podcast. If you're a White Sox fan, any White Sox news that you ever need, definitely I recommend checking out the White Sox.
Great follow on Twitter, by the way.
Yeah, great follow on Twitter, by the way. Yeah, for sure. So with no further ado, here comes Chuck Garfein. Chuck, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. Thanks for the plug for the podcast. I appreciate it.
Oh, of course, man, of course. So, Juice, you want to lead out with your questions, brother?
Yeah, Chuck, so diving into the White Sox, obviously this is a rebuild kind of accelerated by what's going on with some Manny Machado, Bryce Harper rumors. I first want to start with a guy who's not on the roster yet, stuck in the minors, Dylan Cease. I'm a Cub fan, big Cub fan, but I'm not.
That's tough for you, right?
But so going into that Jose Quintana trade, obviously Eloy Jimenez comes over, but I thought the guy that with the underlining name that nobody knew that I was a huge fan of was Dylan Cease. And I've been telling Buzz on this show for the last 8 months, I think Dylan Cease is going to be your ace. He's got nasty stuff. Am I crazy to think that?
No, you're not crazy. He definitely has the potential to be the ace of this team. Him or Kopech, or maybe they find someone else who ends up being their ace. You know, you never know where this is all going to go. But, you know, his upside is you know, through the roof. And, you know, we saw, the first time we really saw what he could do was actually in spring training last year when he faced the Mariners, and he was mowing guys down. He didn't have a great start to his career with the White Sox at the end of 2017.
Mm-hmm.
But that's when he really came on, was last spring, and he had a dominating season. So yeah, I would say he could, right now he's in the driver's seat to be the ace, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing what he can do in here 2019. If he continues pitching like he did last year, he'll be in the majors, no doubt, this season.
Interesting. All
so
right.
You think he makes a jump this season then, Chuck? I would, everybody says expect to see Eloy after.
I highly doubt he will break camp with them. But, I mean, I had Don Cooper on the White Sox Talk podcast last week, and he believes he can do it this season. So if Don Cooper believes it, I believe it.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just another way that how bad you fleeced us in that trade. I mean, no offense, Jose Quintana is great, and it's great having the starting pitching depth that the Cubs have. But, I mean, you're looking at maybe a top 5 player in baseball, and the way I look at Dylan Cease, that's a front-of-the-line guy that the Cubs just threw in for, nothing. I thought the trade was even with Eloy for Quintana at that point. But, hey, I guess when you're trying to win, that's the price you have to pay.
Yeah, I mean, and there were a lot of teams that were interested in Quintana. And let me just say this. I don't know what happened to Jose Quintana, but he's not the same pitcher he was with the White Sox.
Nope.
So if you want to credit Don Cooper or just, I don't know what. I mean, he's had a multiple pitching coaches already with the Cubs. I'm not sure, but, there are a lot of Cubs fans who are frustrated with Quintana, but he was a much better pitcher, in my opinion, with the White Sox. And I hope he can turn it around and pitch better with the Cubs, because this is not the Quintana that I remember.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way. Speaking of younger talent within the White Sox organization, can you tell us about do you know anything about the White Sox trip to the Dominican and how that went for the team and all the young guys getting to learn the culture for, obviously the White Sox have a lot of Dominican players, a lot of Cuban players and stuff like that. So how was, do you have any information on how that trip went?
Yes, I know a lot about it because we had two of my colleagues are down there, Ryan McGuffey and Matt Buckman, photographer and producer, and they're flying back tonight. They were there the whole time with the White Sox, documenting what's been going on there. We've put out some content already, but look for a lot more in the coming days and a few weeks ahead. But this was something put together by the White Sox. Chris Getz was kind of running the show as far as I can tell in terms of organizing this. He's the director of player development with the White Sox, former player of the Sox. And they really wanted to assimilate the American-born players with players who are from Latin America, in this case specifically Dominican Republic, which is where Eloy Jimenez is from, Ronaldo Lopez. There's probably 9 guys on the White Sox who are from the DR. And, there's all these guys who come here from Latin America. They don't speak the language. And it's a difficult challenge to assimilate to the United States. And what the White Sox want to do is they want their American-born players to fully understand what, where their Latin teammates come from and where they had to come from, the poverty if they came from poverty, or just the levels of the hurdles they had to jump over to get to the United States and play Major League Baseball. So they spent Monday through Friday. They're working out in the White Sox Dominican facility. There's one down there. They went to an orphanage. What else? They did a bunch of things. They went to a Dominican Winter League baseball game, which is like none other. Have you guys heard or seen what this is like before?
I've seen clips on Twitter. I've never got to like actually fully experience and see what it's like.
Well, I've never been to one, but I would probably best describe it as a combination of a rock concert, a New Year's Eve, and like the Super Bowl all at once. I mean, the fans get so into every pitch. It's like it's insane. So anyway, they did that, and they got to kind of just see what it's like to live in the Dominican Republic for a week. So this is a great way for the White Sox American players to further understand and fully understand what their teammates from Latin America are like. And I think this is only going to help them with chemistry and understanding one another, and from all accounts, it's been a huge success.
Yeah, I thought this was a great A.
Do you know if any other teams are doing this, Chuck?
I was just about to ask that to him. This is a grade A move.
Because I've never heard of anything along this lines, and that's a genius ploy to put, your American-born players, so like you said, what they went through in their lives, and like you said, you can't simulate that once they come over. Do you know if there's any other teams doing this?
I've never heard of another team doing it, and even if it's been done before, I feel like this should be like national news. So like ESPN or someone needs to pick this up, HBO Real Sports, because this is really progressive. And without getting political, like we're living in a world of like people talking about a wall and things like that. But look, this is a wall being broken down, and I think it's just amazing what the White Sox are doing to bring these two cultures together and have them just learn about each other. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think it should have been picked up too. This is actually a conversation that Juice and I had. I can't believe it wasn't picked up by anybody. The first people that I saw from, I believe it was something that you tweeted out.
But like it's here now.
Right, yeah. It was something that you tweeted out that I saw, and I saw that they put out an article. I read that. I saw Madrigal taking batting practice over there. I saw pictures of Ronaldo showing the team his family home and all that. And I just thought it was so cool. And it just, we're on this show. We're always giving crap to national media. We're always attacking ESPN if they're going after the. Oh, yeah, right. If they're going after the Bears or just no Chicago teams ever really get, I feel, respect. So I mean, especially the White Sox. So, I mean, I'm surprised it wasn't picked up because, like you said, man, it's kind of revolutionary. It's cool. Like you said, like they're talking about walls, and this is a wall being broken down. That was a great way to put it. I wish it would get picked up.
Right, and one thing I should say, these are the 13 of the top prospects in the White Sox organization. It's Madrigal, it's Zach Collins, Dylan Cease, Jimmy Lambert, I'm forgetting guys, Dane Dunning. And Eloy Jimenez lives in the Dominican Republic in the off season, and he didn't have to be there, but he showed up and he's been with these guys almost the whole time to kind of like, hey, tell them this is our home, this is my home. And then Ronaldo Lopez lives like a half hour away, and so our cameras went to where he grew up. And the whole story with him is that when he was a kid, he needed a brand new mitt. He needed a mitt. Like he was using like a piece of cardboard for a mitt.
Jeez.
And his grandfather sold 2 cows. I'll repeat. His grandfather sold 2 cows to get the money to buy a mitt and like a ball and maybe a uniform for Ronaldo Lopez. So he went to his house and met the grandparents who bought him that mitt. So that's kind of a cool story too.
That's fantastic.
And
man.
To me, nothing builds more of a culture together of winning and knowing the backgrounds of your team more than showing them your home and bonding over the trip as well. This is very tight times and it's, to me, when prospects are going through the same thing, they understand the backgrounds. It's so much easier as a transition when the guy's background and he's your teammate and he's with you more often than not and he knows.
When
I
teammates
think
becomes
it's
brotherhood
right.
at
I think
that
it's a
point.
really growing kind of culture thing for the White Sox here.
Yeah, I'm very excited for the future of this
Yeah,
team,
I mean, I think
man.
this will go a long way for them. I mean, they all knew each other, but they hadn't really experienced something of this kind of magnitude, if you want to say it, together until now. And I don't. Ryan, who's the producer down there, he appears on the White Sox podcast a lot with me. He says, wait till you see some of this stuff. I mean, some stuff has trickled out and we've put it out, but there's a lot more there. And so, when he comes back next week, you'll start seeing more of this stuff, and it's really profound. And credit to the White Sox for being this forward-thinking and making something like this happen. This is normally the time that they do their hitters camp. They have their top prospects go to Glendale, Arizona, to the White Sox spring training facility, and they will, hit there. But they're like, let's not have the hitters camp be in Glendale. Let's do it at our facility in the Dominican Republic and make it this like cultural exchange down there. And that's what they did. So props to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and speaking of top prospects, Chuck, when do you expect us to see Eloy? You think it's going to be 2 weeks in the season? 2 weeks into the season, I'm sorry, like everybody's been predicting. And what do you expect out of him this year when he does come up?
Yeah, everyone seems to be under the belief and the conclusion that Eloy's going to get called up like around the second week in April. That might be the case. I don't know. We'll wait and see on that. But he should be up, if not by opening day, second week, third week in April seems about right. And everyone I talk to, in the game, just say he's special and he's going to have a big year now and a big career. Now, what kind of numbers is he going to put up? I have no idea, but I think he's going to provide a whole lot of excitement. It's going to make this team better. Just him being in a lineup is going to make everyone around him better. And I just cannot wait to see what he does. Is he going to bat 300 and hit 30 home runs this first season? I can't promise you that, but I think he's definitely going to be a major upgrade to this offense. And he loves the big moments. He's got a great attitude, an incredible personality, big smile. And Sox fans, I mean, we've been focusing so much on Manny Machado and Bryce Harper, but the best news, and sorry, Cubs fan.
no offense to that, Chuck.
The best news is that Eloy's already here, and I think once the season starts, people are really going to be really excited to watch him play.
Yeah, I do feel like that's been something that's been lost in the shuffle this offseason because, the White Sox in the first part, right near the December meetings, Bryce Harper was very rumored that the White Sox and Bryce Harper seemed to be engaged, and then Manny Machado and the White Sox seemed to be engaged, but people kind of forgot about that. Like you said in the beginning of this, of the show today here, is that Dylan Cease probably will be up this year, and Eloy Jimenez is going to be here. And it's just, with Yoan Moncada coming back for another season, finally getting, into his, this will be his second, he played his 162nd game last year around I can't remember what date it was, but I remember I wrote an article about it. But, he's still young, and he still has so much room to improve with Tim Anderson. He's getting better, and, Eloy coming up and Dylan Cease. And I know that, Michael Kopech had the Tommy John surgery, and we're going to have to wait for 2020 for him. But, I mean, it's still a lot. The South Side has a lot of things, a lot of players to be excited about. And, I understand the optimism and the excitement if Manny Machado or Bryce Harper end up here. I mean, while we're talking about that, Chuck, what do you think about all that? I was paying a lot of attention to it, and I was reading everything that I possibly could, but I'm kind of getting a little burnt out because it just seems to be like a new report every day. And even, big names in the MLB, such as like Bob Nightingale and John Heyman, just seeing them kind of argue on Twitter back and forth, and then Manny's agency, MVP Sports, comes out and says that,
I guess the question
rumors.
is, Chuck, does anybody know anything?
Yeah,
actually?
I guess that's what I was getting at. It's just a runaround, man. I was running around a track right there. It's just so crazy.
So you want to know my opinion? Or?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Chuck.
Chuck.
Yeah, run with it.
Run with it.
So how I see this right now is we had visions of Manny Machado signing a $300 million contract. For whatever reason, that was put out there a year ago. Yeah, he'll sign for $300 million. Okay. But what seems to be the reality is that now this was 10 to 15 years ago. when front offices were a little more reckless, if you want to call it, or were not as, they kind of they weren't as didn't have as much data and weren't as organized as they are, I guess you could say. Didn't have all this information. I think you'd be seeing guys, teams just throwing out money at them because that's what fix problems. And that's what they thought would always fix problems, is to sign someone to a big contract, and you can look it up, and there's been so many of these contracts that really didn't work out, the long-term ones like Mike Hampton, Kevin Brown. I mean, there were just so many of them. But now these front offices are much smarter. And you have, the way the system, how it's broken these days is that if you don't want to win 80 games. And if, back in the day, if you we're a team in the middle, you'd be like, well, I'll spend a lot of money, and, maybe if we win 80 games, we win 80 games. That's okay. Maybe we'll win 85. Who knows? But few teams want to do that these days. So you're either trying to win or you're trying to lose. I mean, no one's going to come and say that, but that's kind of what it is. You're either rebuilding or you're trying to win. So Manny Machado's out there, Bryce Harper's out there, and all these teams who in the past might be in competition to try to get him, half of them are trying to lose, so they're not going to spend the money. And then how many teams that are trying to win have the room in their budget to sign someone like Manny Machado for $200, $300 million, whatever the price is? Not many. And so it's going to take the team that's with the most financial flexibility, which is the White Sox, which is the Phillies, and not too many other teams, unless they're willing to just take Manny Machado for 2 or 3 years, and Machado wants that, if he wants that. If he doesn't want that, there are very few places for him to go. So that is why you see an offer, I think, in my belief, that's 7 years, maybe for around $200 million. I don't know what the number is, but it's maybe around there. And that's why you see Dan Lozano, Machado's agent, freaking out, because he was like expecting or hoping that his client would get $300 million, and right now, look how low it is. So does this mean the White Sox are going to get Manny Machado? It doesn't. But it does mean, in my opinion, that they are in the running for sure for him. But what is he going to want to do? Is he going to want to sign a 7-year, whatever the number is going to be, let's say $200 million contract, and come and play for the White Sox? Or is he going to want to instead gamble a bit, sign a 2 or 3 year deal with a team that might have the flexibility to take that on if it is a New York Yankee team or a San Diego Padre team? I'm not sure what the team would be. A mystery team, then he could do that. Or he signs with the Phillies. So I put it at 50-50 about where if he signs with the White Sox. I think they got a legitimate shot. But it may, and when's it going to happen? I don't know. It could happen tomorrow. Well, I don't think it's going to happen tomorrow. It might happen next week. Could happen during spring training. I want it to end. I'm like you guys. It's just taking way too long. But this is how the game is being played right now. And I say the game, and it's not really a game, but in a way it is. This is how the business is being done right now with these two guys, Machado and Harper, and we have to just kind of follow along and be fatigued by it because that's where it is.
Yeah, I'm with you, Chuck. I'm so tired of it, man. I get up every day, I look at my phone, and I scroll through Twitter praying I see something, and, then I don't, and I go on depressed for the whole day because I'm waiting for something huge to happen with the White Sox,
And obviously, this is my next question to you, Chuck. This offseason's played a lot like last offseason with the big names still out there. Do you foresee some type of a strike happening in 2021 because these players aren't getting the money that some of them think they deserve, and maybe a little collusion between these front offices in terms of saying, hey, we're not going to spend this big money anymore? And if everybody knows that, can you really make a case for collusion on that? Is this just like how this is all going, or do you see, in 2021 the MLBPA fighting back with the owners?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely heading on a path for some kind of conflict, or if not conflict, where I would say things need to be hashed out and changed. But maybe these front offices not wanting to. I mean, there have been a lot of examples where these long-term deals don't work.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what makes Harper and Machado different is that they're only 26. So that's why I and many other people thought they'd get the long-term deal like 10 years because they're 26 years old.
Mm-hmm.
But, that's so easy for me to say that. I'm a sportscaster. I'm not signing the checks.
Right.
I mean, that's a big gamble to take. And, so 7 years to me sounds that's probably a smarter kind of contract to sign. I mean, this Stanton contract is 13 years, I think $325 million. I mean, I wouldn't sign anyone for 13 years. And by the way, if the White Sox sign Machado for $200 million or $190 million, it will be the biggest contract in the history of Chicago sports.
Right.
So, that kind of gets lost here. That we're talking about, hey, the teams aren't spending money. Well, if the White Sox end up spending, $200 million, that's a lot of money they just spent. So, in that regard, it's not broken. I mean, what's really hurts is, there's a lot of these guys in their 30s. You don't want to be a free agent now when you're over 30 years old. It's a big gamble. But I shouldn't say a big gamble, but you're not going to get the big contracts that we saw in the past. You could say these front offices are being smarter. Do you want to take a guy who's 33, 34 and sign him to a deal, or do you want to bring up some prospect that's at a lesser cost who might give you about the same amount of production? I mean, that's what these guys are sometimes weighing. The game's changed. It's changing, and we're still trying to kind of figure out where it's all going and what's happening. But that's kind of where I'm seeing things right now.
Right. Well, I really appreciate you hopping on with us, Chuck, today. Can you just tell everybody your Twitter handle, where to find you, and plug the podcast?
Sure. Okay. Twitter handle is Chuck Garfein, one word, and you can listen to the White Sox Talk podcast. We do it usually every Tuesday and Thursday. We'll have a whole bunch starting next week with once Sox Fest begins. And you can see me here on NBC Sports Chicago. So thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it. And hopefully we have news on Machado. That'd be fun.
Absolutely, Chuck. Thanks for joining us.
Let me just say this.
Okay.
If they don't get Machado, Sox fans should not freak out.
Nope.
If you look at where the Sox have come, I mean, a year ago, the thought of him signing Machado, it was not even a year ago, 3 months ago, was a massive long shot. And here they are. They're almost, potentially could get him. And if they don't, we'll try again next year and the year after that. The White Sox timed this rebuild perfectly in that, last year they didn't want to sign any free agents. There weren't any good ones out there. And look what the Cubs did. They messed up. The Cubs spent all that money on Darvish and Chatwood and Morrow. They should have sat that one out or not been as aggressive, and they should have been in play this winter. That's what the White Sox decided to do. And then next year and the year after, the free agent classes are great again. So the Sox, they're going big time for these guys right now, and once they get better, you'll start seeing them not just trying to get like the biggest free agents, but they're going to be filling in holes via trade and free agents once they know exactly what they need. They don't know exactly what they need all over the diamond right now, but they do know they need a third baseman and they could use a right fielder in Bryce Harper, and that's why they're going for those two right now. So that's what I had to say. So
man, Chuck, you just
blew
drew
me
a
away,
bunch of daggers into my heart too, naming Tyler Chatwood on me right there.
I mean,
but if you have a GM or a president of baseball operations, and Theo Epstein, who's going to go to the Hall of Fame, he helped win the Cubs the World Series. But if it was me, I would have waited a year and looked at who was available this year and would have pounced.
Well, Chuck, we both know that Theo's not very good at free agency. That's not his game. It's the.
Yeah,
I mean,
right,
Carl Crawford told us that years ago before he even came here.
Carl Crawford. Wow.
But thank you again, Chuck.
Yeah.
This is a great time. We hope to have you on again.
Yeah, we'd love to have you join us again, Chuck. Thank you for the time today, man. We really appreciate it.
All right, guys. Talk to you later.
Take care.
Go to Sports Mockery for Chicago sports news and commentary from those who know it best, the fans.